Hi there. Today I thought I would share with you my thoughts and experiences of going back to university after the age of 40 in the country of Denmark as a foreigner during the Corona times. Stay tuned. Welcome back. If you're new to my channel, my name is Kelly and I'm an American living in Denmark. And this is actually not my first video about studying in Denmark. I have a video where I tell you all about the beginning, another one where I tell you about my day-to-day life during the middle of my first semester, and then also an update at the end of my first semester. Now I'm at the end of my second semester in a 2-year program where I actually had to spend most of this semester online because of the coronavirus. Before we get too involved with that though, if you haven't already subscribed to my channel, be sure to do that and don't forget to ring the bell to get notifications when I post new videos. I have to say that when we think about personalities, I'm very much an old school type of person. I was a teacher for 16 years, so I very much appreciate a classroom, students, books, materials, and teachers. So when I went back to school, I knew that online learning was not for me. I didn't want to do an American program online in Denmark or even one from England or any other English-speaking country. I wanted to go to school in Denmark at a Danish school. And even though I did that, I did pick an international program because I wanted to have the best opportunity for me, which I thought was in English, since I didn't feel that my Danish skills were that great for higher education. Luckily, Denmark had an option for that and very locally for me as well. I didn't anticipate this Corona time coming. Nobody did. So when it came to the second semester starting, which it did in the very beginning of February, things were pretty normal for that first month. But when March 11th came and Denmark was shut down and the Prime Minister went on TV and said, don't go back to school, a lot of schools had to think quickly about how that was going to be for students of all ages going to school. My kids were home for a little over a month and I had to homeschool them. And I also was home for that month and the rest of the semester taking classes online. It was a very different dynamic. First off, normally we would have classes and then we would have our breaks worked in and then we would, have time to work with our groups on different activities. It's very difficult in a way when you're doing things online, especially because you don't know how technology is going to be. There were a lot of times when the computer would freeze up either on my end or the end of the professor. There would be some times when we really weren't sure where to go. Maybe a link didn't work to a classroom, so we were all trying to find where we needed to go. And it was very confusing in the beginning, but I have to say that it could have been a lot worse. We also had some problems at our house because of the homeschooling. My kids were home all the time. They didn't go anywhere because of the quarantine. So I had to try and juggle teaching them and also going to my own classes. And for the most part, my classes would go from 8:15 till sometimes 4 o'clock. And that's very difficult to do when you have 2 kids at home that you have to somehow entertain or teach. I was a teacher for a very long time, so teaching my children at home was not something that was difficult for me, but it was very difficult trying to teach them and also really pay attention to my teachers and take notes at the same time. I wanted to make sure that I was prepared for my final exam when it came time to take that final, and really for the longest time we didn't know what was going to happen. We didn't know if the final exam would even take place, because there were so many rumors going around, so many discussions that were being held in meetings that our teachers had about what was going to happen in the program that we just didn't know about. My kids went back to school in the middle of April because things were starting to look up in Denmark with regards to the coronavirus. And we were a little hesitant at first about having them go back because we didn't really know if that was a good thing. But nobody really knew, and we had to kind of put a little bit of faith in the system and know that, okay, well, these schools are going to be adjusting themselves to make sure that there aren't that many kids in a room, and that they're washing their hands often, and that they're outside as much as possible in the fresh air, different things like that. And so things went really quite smoothly with my kids going back to school, and it made it so much easier for me to stay focused on what I was doing. I had a colleague in my program who also had a 2-year-old home with her for a month. So if you could only imagine how difficult that was for her to be involved in our group. That's another thing. In Denmark, groups are really important. The majority of what you do for your program is in a group. You won't really do that much without your group. So if you can't all meet together, or you can't somehow communicate what it is that you need to do when you're alone, it makes getting your projects completed somewhat difficult. So I don't know if my group would consider themselves lucky, but the fact is that I'm very organized, and I have this type of mind where I take a project and I can break it down, and I have a way of kind of discussing that and, I don't know, telling other people. I wouldn't say that I'm bossy. They probably would, but Bossy got the job done this semester. And I think it's really just the willingness that we really wanted to work together as a team, and we wanted to create just some really good work for our end of the semester project. And it was very stressful. I'm not gonna lie. It was very stressful trying to find time when we could all meet. Especially with my colleague having to get her young son and not having the help at home from her husband, who was back at work. My husband was still at home for the most part until June, when he went back to work. I had my online classes all the way until my very last meeting with my professor, which was June 19th. And my exam was actually, I had an oral exam. We could choose at that point to be in person, or we could actually do it online, and my group chose to do it online because that's how we had been working the whole semester. 3 of my colleagues were living in the town where the university was, and I'm living in my small town. So that location really wasn't an issue. But because I was part of an international program, there are so many people who actually went back to their home countries because of this. They couldn't do a lot of work. They were away from their family. It was really kind of uncertain of what was going to happen. So when the government started to shut down the country, a lot of people in my program went home. And so it was really helpful for them that the final exam could be online. It was a very interesting experience, though, I have to say. My group, we worked really well together, and we had a lot of fun and with our practices of getting ready for oral presentations. And there are a lot of oral presentations in the program that we were in, and I can almost assume that's kind of how it is in Denmark. When you're working with a group, you're constantly kind of showcasing what you're learning. And we always kind of did a good job, and we were really getting into the hang of things. But this was a little different. I mean, we had done some oral presentations with like a PowerPoint in our online class, but to do it for a grade was a little stressful. That's one thing that's very different with Danish university versus the American ones that I'm used to. I mean, I have a master's degree, so I've had quite a few university classes in the United States. But in the US, you would get graded for everything, and it would give you an idea of how well you're doing. So if you are writing an essay for your class and you do poorly on it, then you have chance to get feedback from your professor to improve. But in Denmark, we have maybe feedback on some of our oral presentations, but you don't get a grade. You know, they just say, okay, well, we like this, we didn't like this, you should do this. And it's nice to get the feedback. We really had no idea how we were going to perform for this oral examination because we were not told of any grades really up until this point for that type of thing. We had a written project that was due the 5th of June, and we were actually defending that and giving our speech and our PowerPoint on that presentation. And so we really needed to know what we had learned that semester and how to incorporate it into our project. And our oral presentation was on June 18th. Getting to June was a stressful time. May was extremely stressful. You may have noticed that I didn't produce a lot of videos in June because I had such a stressful May. And really the first couple weeks of June were quite busy as well. My smile is a testament to how I feel right now because I am so happy with the way that the semester ended. It was very stressful to think if everything was going to work out, and it did. I am so glad that I have such dedicated teachers to really educate us during this time and communicate with us. And it feels really nice to be in a program where there's really only us. There's like 22 people in my program. And so we get to know each other very well. You know, we're very open with asking each other questions. You're like, oh, I didn't get the link to this classroom. Can somebody send it? And everybody's really helpful. And it's so nice to kind of have each other. We have our own little Facebook group created so we can communicate with each other with little things like this. And it's so nice that we really only have 5 different professors in our program. So we get to know them very well, and we have them all the 2 years that we are in this program. So for 2 years, it's, you know, the same economics guy day in and day out, and the same marketing and the same supply chain because I'm a marketing student. It's very helpful when you want to communicate, I'm having a hard time with my technology today, or I'm having a difficulty understanding this assignment, and or with this project, can you help me with this? And it's really nice that we've been able to work it out so far with our guidance meetings with our teachers, which we have been doing mostly on Skype. So it really shows me, and I've learned so much, that learning can be done online, and it's not a scary thing. And yes, it's a lot of work, and yes, it's extremely stressful because you're working with a lot of people's schedules, you know, when you're working in a group. But it's really shown me that it can be done. And it's something that we may also be working towards in the next semester. It's right now June 2020, and we don't know, as far as right now, how things will be when we start back at school in August. We know our startup date, but we don't know if that will be online or actually physically in the class. There's a lot of things that I think our professors don't know because we have to wait and see. We have to wait and see how the coronavirus is going in Denmark. And I have a feeling that next semester is going to have just as many surprises as this last semester has. But I'm so glad that I've now had a little bit of experience with that. And so I can take that with me, and it'll be easier to adjust to another semester. I have 2 semesters left. Right now I am on vacation. So I'm very, very excited and happy for this downtime. 1 semester in the fall that is going to be core, where I'm focusing on my main classes of really what it is I want to be doing with marketing. And then my last semester is an internship. So I'm currently looking for ideas for internships in the Midtjylland area. So it's the middle section of the peninsula because I live near Viborg. So I'm trying to see what's out there for an international marketing student such as myself. So if you've got any suggestions for me, please put them in the comments below. I would love to know about that. Obviously, if you're seeing this video after January 2021, I probably already have an internship by that point in time. So you'll have to check some of my other videos to get some more updates. But I want to let you know what it's like for me to study in Denmark as a foreigner, because I know that there are many of you out there who are looking to come to Denmark to do your studies. Denmark is a really great place to get a degree, to get your master's, to get your PhD, and it's a really interesting experience. I would highly recommend it if you are someone who is interested in that. I know that it can be a culture shock to come to this country, especially if you are coming from an Asian country, because I know that in Asian countries you don't have a lot of experience with group work. But it's so important to be very honest and vocal with your fellow students and with your professors and let them know about how you feel about different things, and don't be afraid to ask questions. Thanks for coming along on this video, and I hope to see you in the fall when I give you an update of how things are going with my second year of being an international student in Denmark. As always, take care.